What's going on, everybody? We're back once again with the Wrestling Republic daily broadcast. It seems like me and Anthony have been riding together now for like a week straight, just the two of us, but we're back once again. It's Friday, March 10th somehow, as years flying by, just like the last one and the one before it somehow. I don't get it. But it's Friday, and that means we've got SmackDown. And not only do we have SmackDown, we have another fun topic we almost were going to dive into yesterday, which is the WWE gambling situation. It's interesting. A lot of people capitalizing on the sports gambling legalization in America. And we'll definitely get into that. But how are you doing on this fine Friday afternoon, evening for you, I guess, on the East Coast? How are you?
Yeah, I'm not too bad. I do want to make one correction, something I said yesterday. I said that they renamed the WCW title WCW International when Flair jumped in 92. That was not correct. They named it years later when they broke away from the NWA. That was a mistake on my part.
Oh, good. Glad you cleared that up, by the way.
Yeah, I had to.
You have to. Yeah. Sometimes you got to clear things up. It's just part of the deal. But let's get. You want to start with SmackDown? Or you want to start?
Yeah, let's do SmackDown first.
Let's do SmackDown first. I like that. Let's do SmackDown first. So let's get right into it. We saw a brawl, basically involving everybody gunning for Gunther's Intercontinental Championship. Who is the logical next challenger? Is it one person? Are we going to find out tonight? We've got Drew McIntyre, we've got Sheamus, we've got Woods, we've got Cross, we've got LA Knight. There's a lot of people involved in this storyline. Anthony, what are your thoughts as far as who should challenge Gunther at Mania?
I think the safe money will probably be on Sheamus because that is the one title that he's never held, and WrestleMania seems to be the place. If anybody's going to dethrone Gunther, it probably is Sheamus, and it's probably going to be a Mania. Originally, my first thought was, and I believe I said this last week on the show or whatever day it was, when this was initially announced, my first thought was, I believe at Madison Square Garden, they did a 5-way ladder match for the Intercontinental title. Some of the same people, but not all the same people, which I thought that would be a great thing to do at WrestleMania, to do a 5-way ladder match for the Intercontinental title. They still may do that. This may devolve into a no decision, and then they do a ladder match at Mania. But if anybody's going to win the match, I would guess Sheamus. I mean, there have been rumors of who LA Knight might be tied to. Otherwise, I would say LA Knight, but I would go Sheamus would be my guess.
I think that's a good call. The 5-way house show insight is key. And, there's definitely obviously a history of multi-man ladder matches, multi-women ladder matches at Mania. We've seen the Money in the Bank concept used there. The Intercontinental title match where Matt Cardona, Soul's favorite, Zack Ryder won, was pretty darn memorable. Yep. Shelton Benjamin seems to steal that show. Maybe you add him as the 6th guy. I don't know. I'm kidding. But
yeah, I mean, when you think about it, it would be the 29th anniversary of the Shawn Michaels Razor Ramon.
Right.
Which I would love to see them do a one-on-one IC ladder match next year for the 30th anniversary.
It could be amazing.
But if I'm fully in favor of the IC title being defended at Mania. There were so many years it got bypassed, and I don't know why. It is the second most important title, or it was for a long time.
Okay, this is so far out of left field, but you just said the 30th anniversary thing, and immediately in my mind, I don't know why, but I just pictured, I'm like, I don't know how you get there, because Gunther's done such a great job of carrying the belt, and so I'm not trying to like make some broad.
No.
But Carmelo Hayes versus Damian Priest, like you have Priest who uses the Razor's Edge the way he does. He's got some Scott Hall tendencies, does the surfer walkout at times. You have Carmelo Hayes, the prodigy from Michael's, camp, basically, essentially, learn from Shawn, mentored by Shawn, handpicked by Shawn. That would be, I don't know how we get there. We've got over a year, so it'd be fun.
I mean, honestly, this was something I wrote about last year when Scott passed away, because it was right around, it was right before WrestleMania, I believe. It was a couple shortly before Mania, if I remember when he passed. Um, and I had written they should do a Razor Ramon ladder match, and that would be the WrestleMania match to take the place of like the Andre or something, an annual thing, because there used to be the Money in the Bank as part of me.
Right.
But I thought that was something that they could have done. Obviously, they didn't do it then. However, Triple H wasn't the one in charge then, and now this is a fellow Click member, so it's entirely possible that it would become a thing if they decide to go that route.
Definitely. I mean, I think the only other thing when it comes to this Intercontinental title storyline that kind of bugs all of us, and we've talked about it a little bit, but man, Gunther is so great in one-on-one matches and historically in triple threat matches. I often joke about Kobe's not here on a Friday like maybe normal, but Kobe showed me this match where it was Gunther, Timothy Thatcher, and Matt Riddle in Progress, and it was a triple threat match. I'll never forget watching it with him. It was right when I first was hired by Wrestling Republic, and I've never seen a triple threat match that went so long without anybody exiting the ring. You always had somebody resting outside of the ring in a lot of triple threat matches that you see. All three fought in the ring basically the whole. I've almost never seen anything like it, and the opportunity to put him, Drew, and Sheamus in a triple threat situation, I think is a stone left unturned at this point. I would have loved to have been able to see that at Mania, maybe down the road. What are your thoughts on that, Anthony?
Honestly, I think they could do it here. Honestly, I realistically, I don't see Woods ain't getting it. I don't think Cross is getting it. LA Knight, again, there's talk of who he may be tied to, so that leaves Drew and Sheamus. Now they're already teasing there's dissension between the two of them. There's ties with Gunther. I would love to see a triple threat, but I don't know if they're going to go that route with this. Gunther is one of those performers that I don't even want to say he's underrated, but I mean, he can have a great match with anybody, and I don't think people really grasp that. Just the sheer range of people that he has faced, both before going to WWE and since going there. I mean, he was a dominant NXT UK champion. So I mean, if Sheamus didn't win it off of him, would they do Dragunov? Would Dragunov come back, the guy that took him out before? Would that be the guy? But I don't know.
You would think Dragunov would maybe be the guy, but I don't know also if he has a logical transition to the main roster where
That's my fear too.
yeah, I don't see, to be totally honest, and I don't want to be controversial here either, but I totally see Dragunov's talent in matches bell to bell, but charisma wise, I mean, we knock people for charisma that are more charismatic than Ilya Dragunov because the majority of his charisma comes in his body language and his selling, and that isn't exactly charisma, and he's not exactly going to go toe to toe on the microphone with anybody. Him and Gunther, it's amazing, and the story's cool, but at the end of the day, it played out pretty darn well in NXT and NXT UK. I don't know what the future for Dragunov is as a main roster I don't see him as a draw.
I see him in a lot of ways, and again, this may be controversial, but this is how I see him. His intensity reminds me of Benoit. In a lot of ways, he reminds me of Benoit.
That makes
look,
sense.
the characteristics, the aggressive. That's what it reminds me of. So trajectory wise, I mean, he could go that route. If Vince was still running things, I would think he's got no shot. He'll be released.
Right.
Since it's Hunter involved, I think he has a fighting chance. Although I don't see him in a main event picture. If he gets to if they do bring him to the main roster at some point, I see IC, I see US, I see him middle of the pack. I just don't see him right now getting higher than that.
I'll also say I think it hurts him that he very simple trunks, very simple gimmick, and being Russian in
That's
America,
where I was
it's
going to go
hard
with
to
that.
be a Russian babyface. Khabib Nurmagomedov, to an extent, became one in mixed martial arts, became a babyface, and was beloved. It's not impossible,
No,
but I will say there's definitely for Gunther being positioned as a heel as well. It just makes sense, and I think for Dragunov's future, he doesn't have the size to be a heel.
I think in a lot of ways, what Vince would typically do, especially in the '80s, he would always use the stuff with made Slaughter a heel, the Iranian thing. They've used that. Like I almost think Vince would turn around and bring him up and have Dragunov be a Putin guy, and either getting an American wrestler to take him out or bring someone in and saying they're Ukrainian. Like that's something that Vince would do.
Yeah.
Because that's a Vince thing.
Well, I mean, yeah, it did take almost too long to make Miro Rusev the Bulgarian Brute.
Yes.
Given we all know he's Bulgarian.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because they started out, he had the Russian flag and all that
Russian.
other stuff. That's what they made him.
He's Putin.
Yeah. So I think he would have definitely went down that road, although I don't necessarily think he would have brought him up because of the size thing.
Yeah.
We talked about. Or he would have had him be like a very much Napoleon complex type of guy. Like he's angry, but he's small. Like his future would not have been bright on the main roster.
He would have butched him.
Yeah, which the funny part is Butch is still Butch. They still haven't called him Pete Dunne yet.
I love Pete Dunne.
Which is pretty damn funny that they haven't. Despite that. Well, like Seth Rollins is still Seth freaking Rollins, despite the fact Vince is gone and gone from creative, I mean. And Seth has gone on record and saying he doesn't even like the freaking, but yet they still haven't dropped it.
They paid for it.
Yeah, I mean, they own it, so I guess they could do what they want with it. But I think, back full circle, I do think the five-way, or it is five-way, right?
Yeah.
Because Kofi was supposed to be in it, and Kofi got injured, so Kofi's not in it, right? Or is Xavier taking Kofi's spot?
Yeah. Xavier's taking Kofi's spot.
Okay, all right. It should be a good match, especially if they give him enough time. I would like a clean finish, but I'm not sure that we're going to get that.
Probably not. Let's move on to the next one, which is, I mean, I guess there is a tag team division outside of the Usos. So it's Strowman and Ricochet, who I've actually enjoyed, against the Viking Raiders. What are your thoughts on this one, Anthony?
I feel bad for the Viking Raiders. Former War Machine or War Raiders, depending upon when you first saw them. I've always liked them. They're former tag champs, both in WWE and Ring of Honor. I believe they also have IWGP tag title reigns as well. I've always liked them, but I feel like they're getting put in a situation first with, I think it was Sheamus and Drew, right? That was the first time. Like these makeshift teams are beating this established team. I don't like the fact that they're kind of essentially being used. They're a legitimate team and they're being used just to job out to flavor of the month teams that probably are just two singles guys that they don't really have anything for. So they're just sticking them together. So that's my only issue here with this, because I kind of feel like I don't see them having the Raiders beat them. The funny part, and this is, I'm not trying to be the guy that's burying Vince constantly, but talk was Vince loved the show Vikings, was into that. Why they didn't get higher up the card seems a little insane. If that was true that he really did like Vikings. But
it was a good show.
Yeah, honestly, I've had it on my queue forever, and I never watched it.
My dad loves it. My dad swears by it. He loved
Yeah.
Vikings. It made him like Edge more. He was never actually that big of an Edge fan back in the day, and then when Edge returned, he all of a sudden liked him. And I'm like, I thought you weren't an Edge fan.
Oh,
Like
he knows him now.
you were disappointed when Kurt was the one that had to have his head shaved back in the day. I remember it distinctly. Like you never really liked Edge, and he's like, no. Have you seen Vikings? I'm like, okay.
Well, they screwed with Edge before that match, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Because Kurt was going bald, so Vince is like, "No, you gotta shave it." And they kept telling Edge all the way up to the point of before I think they went out there, or he might even told him in the ring. I don't even remember. The whole time they told him Edge, they told him he was losing, and I think Kurt told him in the ring. I think that's when he told them, he's like, "You're going over." Like, meanwhile, Edge was panicking because he didn't want his head shaved.
Of course not.
Yeah.
Oh, it's classic. Oh, and now he got Rhea Ripley's haircut, so go figure. Down the road. I mean, for me on the match, I would love to see the Raiders win. I think Eric Rowe's underrated, man. He's good. He's really good. Really good.
I really liked both of them.
Yeah.
I've always liked the Raiders. I wanted more from them than what they are getting on the main roster. I thought they were used, I think, a little better on NXT, but
for sure.
When you look at it, they are probably the longest tenured tag team going in WWE.
Maybe the Profits?
No, I mean, if you count in their independent run, like as a team, it's probably them, the Bucks,
Imperium.
Well, that's strictly WWE. I'm thinking like if you're just looking long term, that stay together.
Tagging the longest, yeah.
I mean, you figure it's the Raiders, it's the Bucks, Lucha.
Well,
Brothers.
the Bucks aren't. I thought we were talking about in WWE, not.
Oh yeah, in WWE, yes. If we're just going strictly WWE, it's probably the Raiders. It's probably the Raiders and probably the Profits.
Profits, and then I was going to say. There's one more we're missing. That's
New Day. New Day's
New Day, of course, obviously, but no, we are missing a good one. That doesn't get featured often. But our good team. We're missing one like legit tag team. We'll think of it later. It doesn't matter.
The Usos.
Well, that's the obvious one. But no, I was thinking of another one. And it's not Alpha Academy as much as I love them, but gosh dang it. Why am I blanking?
They might not be around for much longer.
Either way, not the point. Let's move along. Let's move along to the best storyline in wrestling right now. The Bloodline storyline.
Yes.
How do you feel about, are we going to see anything tonight? Any advancement? What do you see from Jey Uso? What do you see from Sami Zayn? What do you see from Kevin Owens?
This is the storyline where, people call professional wrestling male soap opera. This is male soap opera. I mean, it's the most compelling story in wrestling and has been for quite a long while. I don't know if there's been a better long-term story being told going into a Mania like the Bloodline, at least for me. So when I look at it, Jey Uso, after Monday night, I was a little surprised that they did announce that he would be returning to SmackDown tonight, because I kind of figured, well, maybe they'll save it for Raw. But obviously he's going to be with Jimmy. Whether or not he's with the rest of the Bloodline, I assume he would be. But I think that's the mystery there, whether or not he came back just to save his brother or he's with Roman. And for me, I'd leave that. I would keep that up in the air. I came back for Jimmy, but leave it in this weird position of whether or not he's with the Bloodline or not.
Yeah, I like that. Hanging in the balance, I think, is the absolute right move. I think you're spot on with that take. I think if you have the reason that Jey did it is for Jimmy, not for Roman. That's key. That's key.
He did it for his twin. Yep.
Now, I've found it fascinating gear-wise. While they've worn matching gear when tagging together, have you noticed when they're not wearing matching gear, Jimmy always wears white gear and Jay always wears black gear? I
I've
have
not
been
noticed that, but you got that tension for
I
the
have
gear.
noticed that over the last year. And that's where I think Jimmy might be. This is something I've been thinking about, something you could do with the storyline too. Jay was the right-hand man.
Yep.
And then,
He was the first one to take a knee.
Jimmy had the not a bitch shirt, I believe it was. Right. But Jay was the right-hand man.
Yep.
What if Jimmy was the right-hand man behind the scenes this whole time and Jimmy screws Jay? And we get a Jimmy Jay storyline coming out of Mania because they don't trust Jay as a part of the bloodline anymore. So you can still keep the bloodline intact to an extent because it's Jay, Roman, and Sikoa.
Yeah.
Now, this is where I'm like, it's starting to make some sense to me to go that route. I think Jay can stand on his own, number one. Number two, I think it's been hinted at the whole way. While he was the right-hand man, he's been the least loyal. All the way.
Mm-hmm.
Other than being skeptical of Sammy, he has not been Mr. Roman, whatever you want. Jimmy kind of has.
Yeah.
And so has Solo. So you can still tag Jimmy and Solo too.
I think it's one of those things where, the feud that Jay had with Roman, obviously Jimmy was out for his own personal issues. So they were forced to do right. Roman essentially beating Jay into submission to take the knee.
Well, initially Jimmy had the knee injury as well. Actually, it wasn't just
exactly. But in the midst of it, he also had his DUI or whatever. There were a number of things.
No, I just wanted to. It was.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, that's right. The knee injury was what caused that, and then he came back.
In the ladder match at 36 with Miz and Morrison.
Yeah.
As well as the New Day.
Yeah. So, they could turn around, and I had suggested this before. I think the bloodline could go on without Roman. I could see them essentially. It's all Rikishi's kids. It's Rikishi's 3 sons. They could turn on Roman like a pack of hyenas, taking him out. And I know Ben disagrees with this, but Roman would still be the heel. It's just that they had enough of his shit. And they turned on him and removed him as the head of the table. It's like a mob hit. Essentially, they've put a hit out on him. They're still the mob.
No question. My only issue I have with it is I think Roman Reigns, at the way he has flipped me on his ability on the microphone and all of that, playing the mafia boss, to lose his entire crew instead of just a piece, I think is too deep of a wound. And then you have to drastically change the character because he's no longer calling shots. And I don't know if Roman doesn't get stale again if he's no longer calling shots.
You have an option here because we all assume or we know Roman's going to be gone after Mania. At least that's the belief. Roman's going to be gone for a while.
SummerSlam, yeah.
Yeah, at least till then, right?
You would assume.
So Roman's out. The one thing that they have going for them is the Samoan family.
Right.
There's always more Samoans. Does Roman come back with other family members? Ooh. And you almost have an NWO versus a wolf pack type scenario of bloodlines.
That would be outstanding. That'd be outstanding. I don't know if the talent is there to build a crew, but I do love the idea.
You figure.
Let's go hypothetical book.
Yeah, so, we're going hypothetical book here.
Yeah.
What the hell's his name? One of the ones from the Girls' Destiny, Tamatonga or Tamalea, whatever.
Tamatonga, Tongalea. Tongaloa.
Yeah.
You can do both.
Yeah, I mean, there's
Hikaleo.
So a couple of them.
You can get all three.
In theory, you can get them. I don't know what his contract status is. Jacob Fatu is an MLW.
Mm-hmm.
I believe there's a Lance and Noah too. I think it's. I mean, there's always another Samoan. And as far as that family, they pop up. There's plenty of them. So in theory, could Roman pick up 3 to go against that? Oh no, really? He only would need 2, because let's say him and Jimmy match up, and then you would need 2 more, right? I think they could easily get 2 more. You know what I mean?
I agree, but I still think you only break the one off and play it up as Sami Zayn was the reason why.
Oh yeah,
Jay. But you keep the other 2 at Roman's side even when he's gone, and keep him with Paul Heyman. You keep Jimmy and Solo with Paul Heyman, and I have no problem with that on Friday nights with only 2 hours. I think, while I hear where you're coming from, there's just so many factors at play. Signing that much talent and doing all that.
I understand.
And I just don't think you can take away the mob boss attitude that Roman has, the head of the table moniker, the idea that people answer to him.
Which is why I suggested another crew. That's the reason why.
I'm in agreement on that. It's so many hoops to jump through, and some of them are flaming. You know what I mean? Like it's a tough road to climb as far as getting all of them and on board to then be right. I'm not sure Hikuleo being 7 feet tall, which has big Cass and Enzo taught us you can't teach.
Almost.
Yeah. Hikuleo's 7 feet tall, right? He'd be a logical pick for that kind of crew deal. I don't know if he wants to be Reigns' lackey. I don't know if he wants to do that. Because he just got pushed to beat Jay White, So, but I do love the spitballing ideas, and would be very entertained if a second crew was pulled off, and the Wolfpack line you drew, tugged on my heartstrings, no doubt about it. But for life, for sure. Huge Wolfpack fan. But yeah, outside of that, I think SmackDown's gonna be fun tonight.
Yeah.
Let's talk WWE Hall of Fame predictions. Yes. No spoilers because we don't know any.
No, we don't know. I mean, there's names that are being thrown out.
Who do you got? Let's throw some out.
Okay. The one that I've been saying to you, and I've been saying this for a while. This is not based on any reports or any other thing. I've been saying The Rock. I kind of felt that, going into it, I don't know. And this was during the period where we all thought it was Rock and Roman. And I kind of figured, okay, they're going to have him have his last match. They're going to do the Hall of Fame. They're going to do everything this year because they don't know if they'll ever get him again for something like this. The fact that The Rock is still not in is, really a shame that he's not in yet. I mean, it's not like he's not going in. It's just a matter of when he's going in. His schedule is so busy. So I think Rock is a possibility. I do find it interesting that Foley posted that somebody contacted him about going in the Hall of Fame. Now, it doesn't entirely fit The Rock because he says, this person hasn't talked to him in a while. However, he did say the words, this person had plenty of options to pick from, which would totally be The Rock, as somebody that would have a lot of people to pick from. One of the names that was supposed to go in a few years ago and didn't because I don't know whether or not this is true or not. They said he didn't want to go in because there wasn't going to be any crowds because of the pandemic. Batista was announced a few years ago to go in. So with it being in Hollywood and him being a Hollywood guy now, it's possible he's the head of the class. And there have been some other names that have kind of been tossed around. I am surprised that they have not announced any names yet because tradition has been, and again, that was Vince's tradition. After the Rumble, you started getting names trickled in. Now, I kind of felt some of the Hall of Fame classes, they put too many people in, which caused them to, and I hated this, they would cut their speeches to like 3 minutes, which was really insulting that
Molly
you're putting
Holly
them in
was
the
the
Hall of
worst
Fame.
one. Molly Holly was the worst one they ever did it to.
Yeah, I mean, they've done it to a number. I'm like, listen, you had Mr. T go on and on and on. Rick has gone on and on and on. But yet, like, other people got cut. Like, if you look at it and you look at, and to me, this is the best Hall of Fame speech I've seen in wrestling. Jake Roberts.
Oh,
You
so
couldn't
good.
cut that speech to 3 minutes. Like, realistically, that was not a speech that should have
No
been 3
way.
minutes. Like, you're giving them the recognition. I get it. You don't, people don't want to sit there the whole time, this and that. Okay, then film it at a different time. Film it, when
Yeah.
it's not as much pressure. Do it on a Wednesday night. Do it on a Wednesday night, as opposed to doing it on Friday after SmackDown, or doing it, on a Saturday night. And again, that was when WrestleMania was just one night. They would do it on a Saturday night, and then like Sunday, like, I gotta wrestle tomorrow. Like, you need to shut up. I need to go to bed. Like, it was that type of stuff. So, I'm hoping it's probably I'm thinking it's a smaller class. Would be my guess. I mean, you look at people that should go in. There's a number of people that should. I think Muda is somebody that should go in. I think Vader is somebody that's long overdue to go in. I think Bam Bam should, but I think if they do Bam Bam, he's probably going to be next year, because he's from Jersey and it's in Philly. So
Really?
I think I saw something earlier today. Somebody said Spike Dudley. The Dudleys want Spike in. I don't think Spike goes in this year. When Spike goes in, because I do think they will eventually put him in. I think a lot of ECW centric people, Philly is the most likely destination for them.
Tommy Dreamer.
Dreamer's a possible. Dreamer, I think, would wait till New York. I think Paul Heyman, though. I think Heyman is a strong possibility next year, because if he's not going into New York, Philly would be the place.
That I love all those picks, and the only one that I'm gonna add to it, because The Rock would have been my choice too for Mankind, Mick Foley to induct, but I actually thought about it. What about Stephanie McMahon? She was always close with Mick Foley, and Steph is not in. She just stepped down as CEO. Be a logical person to induct in Hollywood. I agree with the Batista pick because it's Hollywood. I agree with the Rock pick. But the way Mick Foley said what he said, and the person having a lot of choices, Triple H would be a choice. Vince would be a choice. Shane would be a choice. Mick would be the pick out of left field. Stephanie McMahon, I think, might be who Mick Foley was talking about, inducting into the Hall of Fame in Hollywood this year, and I think she deserves it.
That would be an interesting thing. I think a lot of people would jump on it's another slap in the face of Shane, because Shane, I think there'll be shots with that. Vince, both Hunter and Steph has said in interviews over the years, because people have asked if Vince should go in, and it's always been Vince does not want to go in while he's alive. And adding to the whole drama that and issues that caused Vince's initial exile from the company, I think it's unlikely they would put him in. One person that I could think of, and I don't think he would go in because he's technically an AEW guy, but I think would be phenomenal. And I don't know if you know where I'm going with this.
No, but I'm excited. I'm going to give you the full form here.
Dustin.
Ooh.
Hollywood Backlot Brawl, Goldust, Cody's going for the title. What a weekend it would be for the Rhodes if Dustin goes in the Hall of Fame, Cody finishes the story at Mania.
Yes. It'd be very, very, very cool.
It's just a thought. I don't think Foley,
I like that idea.
I don't think Foley was referencing
that
him.
Would be Mick, but yeah, no, I totally hear where you're coming from on that, and I like the idea, of course. But let's get into our last topic of the day.
Yes.
Gambling and wrestling.
Yep.
So basically, it's legal in the UK. It's legal most places. Vegas, you cannot bet pro wrestling. But a lot of factors at play here as a fan of sports gambling and gambling in general. I'm excited about it. I'm curious as to what you think as far as how does this affect booking?
I mean, to be perfectly honest, and I know there was, and I don't want to use the person's name. I know one of the quote unquote journalists in the industry, prominent one, complained and said, "Oh, they can't do long term booking. This will affect the company. This and that." I don't buy that, and here's why. In a lot of ways, that journalist and other ones sell a lot of subscriptions, whether to newsletters, magazines, podcasts, whatever. They make a lot of money off of giving spoilers. Okay. So if there's gambling taking place, I would think WWE and AEW and any of these companies would be more tight-lipped and try to keep things as secretive as possible to avoid that stuff getting out there and being accused of illegal inside information, gambling. They don't want a Pete Rose situation. They don't want any of that. I think it would be more secretive. Well, if they're more secretive, then the less stuff's coming out. And some of these people that peddle spoilers are not going to be able to get them. So I think they might be complaining more on this fact that it's going to impact them more than the fans. I think if it's more secretive, one of the things that I love, and I know you too, the Rumble, the secretiveness, not knowing who's coming out, when they're coming out. The great thing with the Bloodline storyline, we don't know what's coming. The whole thing of going, oh, well, they can't tell the wrestler, who's going over. They could tell the wrestler who's going over. I mean, there's people bet on everything. Yes. Game of Thrones, when that was ending, weren't they taking bets on that, on how that was going to end? Same
people
thing.
Bet on the Super Bowl commercials.
Dude, you told me yourself, and I hope you don't mind me saying this. There was even a bet on what color Gatorade was going to be poured on the coach at the end of the Super Bowl this year.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, people bet on everything. If people don't think other people were betting on wrestling, maybe not in an official capacity, but amongst their buddies or whatever, it was happening.
It happens every show.
And when it comes down to it,
happens in the arena.
Yeah. When it comes down to it, it's all about the money. It's tax revenue they're getting back. Same thing with legalizing marijuana. It all comes down to money. That's what it's going to come down to. There's a lot of money to be made. And what do they care? It's betting on WWE is the equivalent of betting on a TV show or anything else, really. I mean, it's not, you can't really compare it to boxing or MMA or even professional sports, because it's not like somebody on SmackDown is going to take a dive to win a bet. Right. It's a script. It's a story. It would be the equivalent of somebody betting on a Marvel movie. I mean, I don't get the whole, this will negative impact anything. It won't. I don't see how it would.
And this is where I find the balance fascinating. So, I mean, look, like you said, it's not like MMA or boxing. And it's interesting because MMA has just recently had their own betting scandal. James Krause, one of the best coaches in the sport, coach of the flyweight champion, Brandon Moreno. He's probably going to be banned for life, and he's probably going to go to prison for giving insider tips for gambling on MMA fights about injured fighters and whatnot. On that same token, like you said, people are already doing it. And here's the thing. I have a little bit more faith in the performer, I think, than some others might, in the sense that, if gambling is allowed, people will adapt. And so, yes, maybe information will leak slightly different, but I would also imagine we've heard 1,000 stories about finishes being changed at the last minute.
Yep.
Matches being booked on the fly.
Yeah.
Audibles being called. All of those things are what makes wrestling so great. It's live. It's one take. It's live performance art. And it's something I think gambling it's pumping a money cannon into the sport, just like it has college football, the NFL, mixed martial arts, boxing, combat sports, professional soccer, all of it. It's a money cannon. Gambling is, especially if it's legal in America. And for the WWE and even AEW to not be on board and not be able to handle it as far as creative is concerned and the legal aspects. That seems like just being unprepared, because at the end of the day, it's proven to be so valuable in so many other markets. To not ride the same wave makes no sense to me. And I see nothing wrong with being able to gamble on professional wrestling, especially because I think it'll actually tighten up creative for the major products.
Yeah, I think it's actually going to be better for the fans, because I think they're going to be more secretive, and the spoiler market will dry up, or reliable spoilers. I mean, DraftKings advertised both for WWE and AEW. They both have had shows where, place your bets in, and for sweepstakes or whatever it is, because I guess it's not, it's technically not legal to bet on the wrestling, but it was kind of like a sweepstakes type deal. Weren't they doing that? Like,
yes, numerous
or whatever it was.
DraftKings and FanDuel have both done that, I believe.
Yes. So, I mean, I don't see the negative in that. I don't think you're going to get. I guess the fear would be like a Pete Rose situation, but honestly, it's not a Pete Rose situation, because it's storyline booking. Like, I could see them being a lawsuit if, let's say, somebody on WWE Creative placed a bet.
Right.
I could see if that type of crap, I could see.
But I mean, that's got to be written into your contract. That's what they're doing look at Calvin Ridley in the NFL, right? He wasn't betting against his team. He was betting on the NFL, but it's in his contract. He can't do that.
Correct.
So that's why he had to sit out.
And that's what I think. It's going to be stuff in there. Will people get busted for shit like that? Yeah, because people get greedy.
James Cross MMA, we just mentioned. Yeah, right.
Yeah,
it happens.
It happens. It happens, but I don't.
Joe Jackson.
Yes. Yeah. Who hits 400 trying to throw a game? But just in general. But when you look at it, I just don't think this is necessarily going to be a negative with professional wrestling. I don't know if I've lost you, Clark.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you now.
Okay,
we're good. We're good.
Sorry,
yeah,
we're good. I could hear you. I hope that.
Okay, you froze there, and I didn't know if I didn't know if I was going to have to run with this.
We're good.
But yeah, I think it could work in the favor, especially if they're getting more secretive with stuff, so less things will leak. I think that's one of the biggest things, because when spoilers are out there, whether you want to admit it or not, people get tempted to look at the stuff.
Well, and it's just going to be fun.
Well, that's the thing too, because it's going to be, place your bet on how many, spears it's going to take to put this guy away.
The props are going to be the most fun. And I'll even add to that the props are going to be the key to the whole thing.
Yeah.
And not only that, the handicappers make a lot of money.
Yes.
So I get it. The spoilers might be harder to come by.
Yes.
But if you were a spoiler guy before and you're now a handicapper because you're established as an expert, that's a revenue stream for you. Go be a handicapper of wrestling, because it works. Horse racing handicappers make a great living.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's the thing. When you look at wrestling websites, especially before pay-per-views, 9 times out of 10 you will see a thing and it'll say plus, 500. Yes. Mine's they're already handicapping people.
100%.
Now you actually have the ability to bet on it.
100%.
So I don't see the harm.
I think we're on the same page here, and we're up against time, but
yes,
let's go home. I mean, It's been a blast as usual. This is not a throwback Thursday. It's Friday. It's freaking Friday. Yeah. TGIF, Wrestling Republic Daily Broadcast. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Hit the like, hit the subscribe if you have the time. Comment if you can. It's all helpful. Much love from all of us. Me and Anthony Ricciardi. I think I'll be back tomorrow. I don't know if you'll be back or not. Let me know.
I don't think I'm on the schedule, but let me know.
Yeah, you tell me. Either way, it's signing off. We'll talk to you guys soon.